Hey everybody, I just wanted to read a quick scripture. It's out of Hosea, chapter 9. Hosea is they say is Joshua. You read in the Old Testament, I believe it's somewhere in Chronicles, maybe in Kings somewhere, where it says Joshua is Hosea. Maybe different Joshua. But so when you hear people say the Hebrew word for Jesus, right? And Orthodox Jews have a completely different name for the name Jesus. It's not Joshua or Yahusha or any of that stuff. It's which Yahusha is the Paleo Hebrew name for the Messiah, Yahusha. So Hosea and Joshua, they're the same, but it didn't really make sense, right? Because you look at Paleo Hebrew, everything with the J in English is spelled with the Y in Paleo Hebrew with a Yod. So Yahusha, that's Jesus. Yerushalayim is Jerusalem. Yosef is Joseph. Yahudim is the Jews. You see what I'm saying? So Joshua to be translated to Hosea doesn't really make sense since Joshua sounds like Joshua. Joshua, and again, there's no J's in Judean Paleo Hebrew. So there's nothing that would say Joshua. It just sounds like Joshua in English, someone trying to say it in a Hebrew form. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just Hosea and Joshua. I think when people say Joshua, they think Joshua is Jesus, but Jesus doesn't have a Hebrew name. There's nothing that translate in Paleo Hebrew anyway. So that's just I'm not taking anything away from the name Jesus and everything. It's good for Gentiles and, people, that, don't, come to the Hebraic Jewish faith, I suppose. So with that being said, I just wanted to read chapter 9, verses 7 through 9, Hosea. But see what Joshua was Moshe's predecessor. So I could see how maybe somebody would be like, okay, well, Joshua came after Moses. Jesus comes from God. I could see how that correlation. But, it's not taking anything away from what the Messiah did. You can call him Yahusha. You can call him Jesus. Joshua. Indians call him Krishna. Whatever. You want, whatever way you want to look at it. But anyway, I'll read this real quick. So Hosea, a little backstory. Hosea's a prophet. He's the one that had to marry the prostitutes in the beginning, so Yahuwah could show him this is what Israel's like, marrying prostitutes or prostituting themselves, and then all this bad stuff happens. So he's pretty much prophesying what Israel's doing bad, how Israel and Judah, because Israel and Judah split up for a while, so Judah was his own kingdom. You read that in 1st and 2nd Kings, I believe. So Hosea, chapter 9, verses 7, 8, 9, says, "The time of Israel's punishment has come. The day of payment is here. Soon Israel will know this all too well. Because of your great sin and hostility, you say the prophets are crazy, and the inspired men are fools. The prophet is a watchman over Israel for my Elohim, yet traps are laid for him wherever he goes. He faces hostility even in the house of God." Now, that's very important in today's world, right? So who would face hostility in the house of, you go to a Christian church, you go to a temple, synagogue, you go to a mosque, who would face hostility? I suppose anybody that didn't really challenge your doctrine, but writes things you don't like to hear, things that might happen in war or politics or life or what have you. You write it, this is what's going to happen if this doesn't stop. You see what I'm saying? It's just, and it does happen, and then people get mad at that person for saying these things. It happens all the time. It happened to Jeremiah. It happened, Jeremiah, Daniel. It happened to all the prophets in Israel. Isaiah said stuff that people didn't like. Ezekiel said stuff that people didn't like. People hated these people. They didn't like them because they said stuff that people didn't like. Why? Because it probably resonated with them in some form or fashion. They related to it. Not even that. It's, why would you prophesy something bad? Why would you prophesy this against us? Like Jeremiah, for instance, you will lose the war. That's what he's telling the king. You will lose the war. Why would you tell us to? Why would we lose the war if we fight? Because you're telling us to go willfully with Babylon. Why are you telling us to do that? Are you defecting to Babylon? You see what I'm saying? So the prophets would say things that would irritate people that wouldn't align with their specific beliefs. And yes, today you can write, you can look at world events, you can get involved in the politics, you can, again, don't turn aside to the right hand, to the left, stay centered, focused on the Messiah. But you can get involved in courts. You can get involved in everyday civics of life and implement Messiah. If they need Messiah, you can implement it. No, this is what needs to happen. It can happen today. Just because we're not living in tents and living out of caves and the Qumran caves and things like that, and not going to marketplace, we got to walk 3 miles to get to a market. Just because of these things doesn't mean you can't relate to this word. But again, this just proves. And Hosea, you know, the Messiah said when he was on the earth, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice." Who said that? Hosea said that. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, but you guys don't understand that. You don't understand what that means. So what's that look like? Okay, you got an individual that's in court, or you got a family member or a friend that's in the justice system. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, because some of these folks don't show no mercy. On the state level, the states think for some reason they have their own power and can do whatever they want. But again, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Okay, then you look at that. Well, why does he need to be shown mercy? We all need to be shown mercy. Oh, well, he's in jail. He's on the streets. He's doing drugs. Why does he need to be shown mercy? See, that's what's wrong with the disconnect with the world. You guys don't understand that. You automatically look at that person and say, "Screw him." No, it's not. That's not the way this works. It's not the way this works, because you're gonna get into a position where you do that all the time. You judge and judge and judge and judge, and then you're gonna sit there and when you're older and in your own filth, and you're gonna be bitter. But anyway, yes. So this is the way they treated prophets back then. You know, you even see today people write stuff or post blogs and stuff, and it gets big news coverage. Why would you write something like this? Why would you start? Because this is what the world needs. The world needs to be shooken up, and people need to be put in check. If you put pressure on people, you'll see. And if it aligns with this word, whatever you're doing in life, whatever you're doing, whatever you're striving for, if it aligns with this word and you got a purpose behind it, and the only thing that would, you know, stop whatever you're trying to do, if you have this foundated in you, in anything in life, any goals, any aspirations, anything, if people are fighting it, well, then you fight back, because if they're fighting this, you fight back. It's that simple. So again, it's a lot of preconceived notions of people, and you know, and you got new religions coming in. Well, we relate more to this because it's newer, and that's more of our life, and this, that, and the other. But if you sat down and delve deep into this, okay, well, you're not a Hebrew. You can't relate to the Hebrew. This is the Old Testament. You don't live like that anymore. So why do you go to history class in school? Well, you don't relate to that stuff. So why are you taking tests on it? Why are you studying? Why are you learning? Because you have to for school, things of that nature. Okay, I get that. So when you come to this, it's faith, right? You can't relate. They lived life like we lived life. Maybe some of you haven't been homeless, living in tents and stuff like that. Okay, fine. We're in a new world where we can build houses and get, you know, central heating and stuff like that. I'm going off on tangents, but again, when people are writers, when people get on the news and you know, do a segment or something, people get irritated at people. Why are you saying this thing? The prophets would do the same thing. Look at that word. A prophecy is forthtelling and forthcoming. I heard that from a preacher down in Tennessee. A prophecy is forthtelling and forthcoming. So when you prophesy, you know, when you're a kid, you think that's some magical thing. It is a beautiful thing when you get older and you really appreciate it. So this, when you prophesy, when you write or whatever you're doing, making music, whatever you're doing, you're writing because you have a purpose behind whatever you're writing about. Maybe you have an agenda. Maybe you want to get a law changed. Maybe you want people to hear your opinion on matters, and you know Eminem's big on that in the music. He gets his views in the music, and the music, it's his platform to check things up a bit, put you know, people in check, like the Republicans and the Democrats and stuff like that. The Sadducees and the Pharisees back then. The Pharisees believed in resurrection. The Sadducees didn't. You kind of look at it today. The Republicans, they believe, you know, I would assume they believe in resurrection, right? Republicanism, you sin, you resurrect, you're forgiven. Sadducees, they're kind of not like that. Well, that's you. Do you want to be that? Well, no, this is what the world is. If that's you, okay, don't let people bother you spiritually. That's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Especially with the transgender thing, especially with the sports thing, especially with their frivolous spending on stuff. They don't care. They don't want to fix anything. That's your mistake, and if it bothers you that you did it so much, just be that. You see what I'm saying? So there's the disconnect with that. But again, you can get involved with anything. You got to get purpose. You got to get driven behind something. You got to get involved, whether that be the courts, whether that be getting behind a petition and signing something. But you will get hated. This is what being persecuted for the word means. Stuff like this. People's lives are different. Some people can get into the faith when they're young and their family's founded in faith, and they can just live their life, and that's something they do, and they work in the church, and it's good. Nothing bad happens to them. But this word wasn't written just for those people. Again, the word was written for sinners. The word was written for this guy. He got to a point in his life where he's getting hung on a piece of wood or a tree, and he's still keeping his faith. That's the point. Now, if you're that person, the criminal that's getting crucified because the soldiers of the police are killing you or whatever, and you did something wrong and your intentions were to do something wrong, well, I mean, that's what you get. But if you didn't, and this happens to people, again, they get put in a situation they're not supposed to be in, and it happens, this was written for those people. So to totally shun off people and say, well, no, that's wrong, this is wrong, it's you know, it's not right to do. But I'll let you go with that. So again, the prophets are crazy. This is what Israel were. So not all Israel. When you read this word, okay, it's like being around 1,000 other people, and you're the only person that writes what's going on in life. Well, this is going to happen, and all those 1,000 people get mad. Why would you say that? Rah. You see what I'm saying? Even in the house of the Father. Now that doesn't have to necessarily look like, well, we're actually arguing in the house in a service or in church service or something. We're arguing. No, it's a mind state. It's a spiritual feeling. You got to test the spirits. So I'll leave you with that. Just I thought it was an interesting scripture. Thank you.